Welcome into sportsbookreview.com. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
And this is the College Football Show. On today's show, opening lines. That's right. It is week 2, or the traditional week 2, I guess we could say. Still not a ton of games, but we got more this week than we had last week. And because these lines have been out for a little bit, because a lot of these teams have not played, it's not your typical opening line show.
Correct.
Right? So
it's going to take a couple of weeks before we get a true opening line show.
Yes, because we've got, there's games out 3 weeks ahead of time already. So
that's right.
That's the way this is going to go for a little bit, but right now we can actually discuss the way that lines have moved leading up to this point, etc. And there are some real opening lines from teams that played on Saturday. So we can discuss all of that, and we will do that here momentarily. But before we do it, go over to sbrpicks.com/NCAAF. Do yourself a favor. Stay up to date with all of the content. We've got a great crew over there. They will keep you up to date with everything that is going on, and they tackle pretty much every game. It's really crazy. Do yourself a favor. sbrpicks.com/NCAAF. That is going to be where you go for your college football content for the rest of the season. And make sure that you like this video. Little thumbs up down there. You see it. Go ahead and do that. And subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you stay with our content through the entire season. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be nuts. And we are going to be here with you the entire way. Let's go ahead and dive into some of these games. We have got a Thursday night game that, for you and I, is pretty intriguing. And hopefully for everybody else, you'll only be able to see it if you got ACC Network. So that's not great. But UAB at Miami, it's rotation 393, 394. Thursday, September 10th, it is a 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern kick. And right now, it opened at Miami minus 15.5. It has already moved down to Miami minus 14, and at a couple of books, it's already minus 13.5. So, a lot of love for Bill Clark and the UAB Blazers. Hey, give me your thoughts here, and I'll tell you what the analytics say.
I really don't have much of a thought. I like UAB. We know this if you follow along with us, that I have a bias towards Bill Clark, and I trust that team. But at the same time, they're playing a Power 5 school, not a typical Group of 5 school. And Miami's a pretty talented opponent, and they didn't look great this past week.
Well, here's the thing. The advanced analytics will tell you that they looked fine, that they were great, but that they turned the ball over, and you and I talked about
analytics. I watched that game, and I thought,
they weren't.
This is a team that's supposed to be a pretty veteran team that made a lot of mistakes.
They played some ugly football.
Yes.
And I think we're going to see a lot of that this year.
I agree. I do agree that that's kind of going to be the norm.
However, the analytics say I've got one metric that says Miami minus 17, another that says Miami minus 14.5. If it's sitting at 13.5, 14, there is a little bit of value on Miami there. UAB has not covered against a Power 5 opponent since they came back. So just kind of keep that in mind. If everybody continues to love on UAB here and that line drops a little more, that might be one of my picks on our Tuesday show. So we'll dive into that later. We were supposed to have a Friday night game.
Got canceled.
And it got canceled.
This is the first COVID game that got postponed.
Well, there was so Marshall and East Carolina was supposed to happen this week.
That was supposed to happen this week also.
And it got postponed as well. So I don't know how they're going to fit it in.
I don't think they're going to.
I think
the non-conference games are just going to let it roll.
Yeah, it probably makes sense.
If I had to guess, they're not going to try to make these up at the end of the year.
So, and this one was because TCU had an outbreak.
Yes.
So SMU,
because SMU played a game. They played Saturday.
Yep. And so far, no reports that anything out of the norm is going on in Dallas with them. So, so we will not have a game on Friday night, which moves us into Saturday. And we have got a slate on Saturday. We've got real games with real teams, and I'm pumped about it. To be fair, these are some very interesting lines. We will go ahead and dive into the 11 a.m. slate. 4:15 Louisiana, 4:16 Iowa State. That is a 12 p.m. Eastern kick on ESPN. And right now, as it sits, Iowa State minus 11.5, minus 10.5 in some spots. You can get it anywhere in between. Opened up at minus 11.5, so there has not been a ton of movement on this. And I don't know that people really know what to do here. And I don't blame them, because these are two incredibly well-coached teams. Billy Napier, Matt Campbell, these are good football teams. So both have a ton of experience coming back. But the question is, like, who got the most practice time? Who is going to, it's going to be weird.
Yeah, these are things we don't know. Who's going to show up? Because we saw some teams play this weekend that looked good. That looked like they didn't have any it wasn't a normal offseason for them. It looked like a typical offseason the way they played. And then we have some teams that look like they just started practicing together yesterday.
You are correct.
And I don't know that there's any way you can predict that, because some of them are well coached historically, but just not. And just because you're a great coach and you're a great organization or a great program, if your kids going through this are not handling whatever this transitional thing is that we're all living with, well, then there's no predicting that.
Yes. Agreed. So with that said, we'll jump off that because we really have no idea which direction that one's going to go.
Yeah.
Or no.
And it might not. It might be, because this line's been out there for a couple of weeks.
It might just sit there.
It might be settled where it is.
You might be right about that. We will move on. Rotation number 419, 420. That's Louisiana Tech at Baylor, 12 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. That's Big Fox.
Big Fox.
Big time.
That's right.
Dave Aranda's first game as the Baylor head coach. Skip Holtz, you would think there is some continuity there at Louisiana Tech. He does have some returning experience, star quarterback, star receiver, all that. All those guys are coming back. But they lost their offensive coordinator, lost their defensive coordinator. What does that mean going forward? It could be real interesting. These are two teams that didn't get acclimated to the new guys that are coming in on these coaching staffs. This could be kind of crazy. Opened up at Baylor minus 17.5. It was bet all the way up to Baylor minus 20 within a day. And now it has been bet back down to minus 18.5, minus 18 at some spots. Baylor, significant favorite here. Charlie Brewer coming back at quarterback, but they lost a ton off of that defense. I'm curious. I think Louisiana Tech has had a little more practice time. I think they actually got in some spring ball. Might be wrong about that. We'll see. Either way, but that seems like a ton of points, right? I mean, am I crazy?
This is where I kind of thought the line would open up at, though. And it, like I said, it's been out. It's one of these lines, been out for a couple of weeks. I think it's settled where it's going to settle. I could be wrong on that. And I think the number's a good number.
The two sets of metrics that I've got here, Baylor minus 20 and Baylor minus 13.
Yeah.
So
it's hard.
Somewhere in between.
Yeah. And that's a pretty big separation. I mean,
yes,
a touchdown between those.
Baylor had a ton of close games last year.
No, they had a ton of close games against really good football teams.
They had close games against not good football teams as well. Like, they did blow out like Texas and a few others here and there, but there were, they had to go to double overtime with Texas Tech and a few others here and there. But and I don't know that Louisiana Tech has the same kind of talent that a Texas Tech has, but either way, we'll stay on this 11 a.m. slot, and we're going to move to the ACC right quick. Rotation 395, 396, Syracuse at North Carolina. This is 12 p.m. Eastern time on the ACC network. We talked about that before. Kind of tough to get your hands on that one, but if you can, this is going to be we think, a pretty good ball game.
Yes.
And this one opened up at North Carolina minus 19.5. It has already been bet up to North Carolina minus 21 in most spots. You can find a minus 20.5 over at Bet Online, a couple other spots. But yeah, that seems like a ton of points. Maybe I'm crazy, but I have to imagine that that's going to go back down, right?
I think so. I don't think it's going down. Once again, all these lines have been out there. People have been betting them for a couple of weeks.
True.
A lot of action is going to come in this week more than early bets, but the sharp guys, I think, already got their money in, which tells me I would think most of the public play and not sharp play is going to come in on North Carolina. I could see this line actually getting bigger.
You might be right. I mean, people love Sam Howell. They love Mac Brown.
I was about to say, Mac Brown, yeah. Sam Howell, and UNC is the hot team that people are looking at. Can they be the dark horse? Can they take down Clemson and this conference, or at least compete with Clemson in this conference at the top of it? And Syracuse, coming off of a real bad season, I think it's going to be a pretty big public play on UNC. If you like Syracuse, I'd hold out a little longer.
You might be right about that. The ratings that I've got, one has North Carolina by 4, and the other has North Carolina by 14.5. So
but all those are worlds lower than
3
21.
touchdowns. Yeah.
If it gets over 21.5, I am pulling I will tell you, I'll be pulling the trigger big on Dino Babers.
Yeah, I can believe that. All right, we'll move into another big game, and I don't know exactly how big all of these games are, but we're going to try and give you the ones that will be the most bet. These are the ones that will be in the prime TV spots and whatnot, and then we'll dive into some other ones if we see something interesting, right? Duke at Notre Dame, 4:11 and 4:12 are the rotation numbers. It's 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on NBC, and obviously any game involving Notre Dame going to be a pretty big deal right now. They're actually going to have fans in the stands. They are playing football, even though they sent a bunch of the students, off campus, all that. Notre Dame's in the news. They make news. And now we got a football game, and Notre Dame, as it sits, 19.5-point favorite, 20-point favorite in some spots, opened at 20.5. So it's come back down. You got people that love David Cutcliffe, right? And we like David Cutcliffe typically as an underdog. The metrics have Notre Dame minus 14 at one spot and then minus 25 at another spot. So some of these numbers don't really know what to do with Notre Dame or with Duke for that matter. What say you? I mean, do we trust Duke after just an awful season last year with that offense? I think, they've got Chase Bryce coming in, former Clemson quarterback, that should get them back to what Cutcliffe likes to do on offense. They moved specifically to run last year.
I think they'll be better. I think Duke will be better. I don't know that it's going to help them much in this game.
I like Clark Lee's defense.
I believe Notre Dame has the goods to make it to another playoff run. I think they're that level good.
I think that they, especially with the schedule that they've got, I think that they will be able to compete in that hemisphere, in that area.
They're in that conversation.
I don't know that they have enough talent to be able to win it. I think they can get
that's irrelevant.
But
now we're talking about them playing Duke, not Alabama.
That's a good
point.
Not
LSU, not Georgia, not Clemson.
That is a valid point.
I need them to beat Duke by
3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns.
And I think they could probably do that. So this one kind of screams what that Louisville game to open up last year was for Notre Dame, where they get up big and then they just kind of...
The problem you're going to worry about in this game is the backdoor cover.
Yes.
So last week, Saturday's games, we didn't really have any backdoor covers. We just had teams that were either covering the entire time or were getting blown out the entire time. And if you were basically covering in the first half, you were covering in the second half, you can cover in the entire game. You didn't really have to sweat any of them. I think this Saturday we're going to have a little different story, and I do think some teams can catch a couple of backdoors.
Yes, I think you are.
But some of these numbers are pretty big.
Oh, yes, they are. Yes, they are. All right, we will move on from that. We'll move into the 3:30 p.m. Eastern time slot, and we're going to move to rotation 427 and 428. That is Arkansas State and Kansas State. Arkansas State looked okay in a loss to Memphis. They didn't get blown out by any stretch of the imagination, and they really put up a fight. The number as it sits opened at minus 10.5, and we've got it at minus 12 in one spot, and we got it at minus 10 in other spots. So you can find this, pretty much anywhere you want it right now.
That's right.
Pretty much anywhere you want it. The metrics that I have say Kansas State minus 17 in one spot and minus 11 in another spot. I am not sure what to make of it just yet. I think that you are going to have some people that kind of fell in love with watching Arkansas State in primetime. They got 2 quarterbacks that can both fling it, and they looked all right against Memphis.
They replaced those 2 big receivers last year with 2 other big receivers that were just as athletic and just as fast and could go down the field and catch football.
I'll tell you this. It had Arkansas State not done an onside kick when they were down 21-17. It would have been a whole
lot closer.
I think the game would have been completely different.
But even then, they were never really in danger of not covering that game.
I mean, they were down by 20 with 8 minutes left in the game, and the line was, anywhere from 19.5 down to 18.
After the onside kick, yeah.
So
they just seemed like they could be in it, and they kind of played sloppy. I mean, they turned the ball over.
Yes, they did.
They made a lot of mistakes, and I kind of never felt like they were ever going to give up the cover.
Yeah, I agree. Arkansas State in the past, I mean, Blake Anderson is a really good coach.
He's a really good coach.
However, they their defensive line had trouble with Memphis.
Well, yeah, but they're never going to win the game in the trenches.
And
that's just not how they play football.
That's what Chris Kleiman does.
Yeah, but that's the difference between a Sun Belt and a Conference USA team and a Power 5 team.
Right, but now we're talking about a line of only 10 points.
A small G5 school playing a good Power 5
and not that we think Kansas State has a ton of talent here, right? Because they don't. But they do have some dudes in the trenches. And if they wear on you long enough,
Yeah, this is how games get ugly and late. Ball control, slowing it down, keeping those big wide receivers and that quarterback off the field.
You got it.
Yeah, I could see it.
I could see it as well. All right, let's move on. We'll stay in the 3:30 slot. Georgia Tech at Florida State. That is rotation 399 and 400. That is the ABC game, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Look, the metrics are all over the place on this one. I've got one set that says Florida State -5. I've got another that says Florida State -19.5. And currently, we have got the line
between 11 and 12.
Yeah, I've got it 12, 11.5, somewhere around there. It opened at 11.
Yep.
So, you got people that like Florida State right here. And I will tell you, I bet this gets up to 2 touchdowns. I would almost
I don't
guarantee
think
it.
it's getting that big. See, we disagree there.
I think Florida State has a ton of talent. I think Mike Norvell, people love Norvell and what he's doing, and we know that Florida State has a lot more talent than Georgia Tech, right? So I think that's what's going to happen here. But, I might be wrong. As it sits right now, according to SBRpicks.com, you look in the odds section, 67% of the wagers right now on Florida State.
And it's only moved up basically
2 points.
1 point?
Yeah, 1 point. 1 point, you're right.
I just don't think they're going to keep moving.
I don't think it's a ton of money yet.
I don't think it's going to move much more.
You might be right about that. Look, if it stays under 2 touchdowns, I might take a bite of that.
Well,
I mean, we'll see.
Let's see, but yeah.
We will see. I like betting on Mike Norvell, man.
Well, me too.
He's good
we,
person.
we did it a lot in Memphis.
And I love Jeff Collins, but I don't think he's there yet. All right, we will move into the primetime slate right now. Let's go ahead and do that. Rotation 407, 408. That is Clemson. The Clemson Tigers and Dabo Swinney at Wake Forest. Dave Clawson's bunch with new starting quarterback / old starting quarterback Sam Hartman. This is a massive number. Opened at -31.5. It has already been bet up to -32.5, 33.5, somewhere around there.
33.5 in some places.
Yep. Yeah, you can. I mean, it's up there. It's still under 5 touchdowns. So
I do think that's insane. I do think this number is going to keep growing. It might not grow much, but if it got to 35, would it shock me? No.
They were 10-3 against the spread as a favorite during the regular season last year, including the ACC championship game. They covered massive numbers week after week, and I lost quite a bit because I said there is no way that they are going to cover that because there were some that were over 5 touchdowns.
So hang on, when you're betting against the big, because I bet against big schools.
Oh yeah,
and you know this. If you guys followed us at all last year, if you ever heard about it before, I'm not afraid to bet against these big horses. But you can't do it week in and week out. That's just stupid. You have to pick your spots. You have to say, what is a coaching matchup? What is it? So because they were 10-3 against the spread.
Yeah,
as a favorite. They were a favorite every game.
But that's what I'm saying.
There were never a game they wasn't a favorite, so you don't need to say that part. It doesn't matter. The issue is you got to pick your spots. I bet against them on all 3 of the times they didn't cover and only once where they did. I finished 3-1 betting against Clemson, and because I bet against them 4 times, people seemed like, oh, you pick against them all the time, you must have lost a lot. No, I tell you when I pick against them.
True.
And I got lucky. Some of those, the A&M game, complete luck.
Backdoor cover, yeah.
Complete backdoor cover. Complete luck. Had no business covering that game. Still won it. I'll take the check. It's okay. It's just one of those things where you got to pick and choose your spots, and do you trust Dave Clawson? I'll tell you that the times I bet against them and did well was when I trusted the other coach. And some of this is, you're going to hear me make fun of Dabo a lot because I don't like him. I think he's really goofy, and that's different. But that's not a knock on Clemson and their abilities, okay? The issue is I think he can get out-coached pretty easily, even though the talent differential is just the size of the Grand Canyon.
Yes,
And
it certainly is.
And therein lies the question of, if I trust the other coach and I'm getting 5 touchdowns, do I think some of this is, do I think Dabo respects some of these other coaches? Now, obviously he didn't respect A&M. He just couldn't do anything about that back door. But do I think he respects them and takes a foot off the gas?
I mean, you feel that way about Clawson?
I haven't made my mind up yet.
He kind of walloped them last year, but
yes.
they didn't have Jamie Newman playing, I don't believe.
No, Jamie Newman wasn't playing, but they don't have Newman anymore anyway. So,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you had Hartman playing.
Yeah, but Hartman's will be better this year than last.
Maybe.
I've got no idea what I'm going to do. I'll tell you this: if it hits 35, I'm going to play Clawson. But that's I need it to grow another 1.5, which I don't know that it's going to do. This line has been out here for 2 weeks. Is it? It's already grown 2 points.
1.5 or 2 points. Yeah.
Will it go another 1.5? That's insane. That'd be a lot of points to keep growing. If it hits 35, I'm going to play Clawson. That's just a Dave Clawson truther there. That's it.
The metrics that I have, one set has Clemson minus 14 in this game.
Now that's just foolish.
And the other has minus 34.5.
Yes. The 14 metric, if that happens, I would be completely floored and shocked.
Ditto. No, I mean, to be fair, Clemson, played North Carolina to a 1-point game last year. Like,
but
nobody
North Carolina
expected that,
is worlds better than what Wake Forest has been.
Yes, I think talent-wise.
That's a bad comparison.
Well, yeah, but at that time that it happened last year, it was not supposed to be close. North Carolina was not good yet.
That's right. We didn't know North Carolina was going to be what they were when they played Clemson.
True.
That's right. Do we think Wake Forest could be this year's North Carolina?
No.
Okay, I know. I was about to say, you took a minute to answer that? The answer is
no.
I love Dave Clawson. The answer to that is no.
You are correct. You are correct. All right, let's do the last kind of prime time, TV game that we think is going to get some good action. 4:25 and 4:26. That's Tulsa at Oklahoma State. It is also a 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kick on ESPN or possibly ESPNU, because they might be doing NBA playoff games that night. We're not sure yet. So my guess is it would be ESPN. Just a guess. The way that the playoffs have gone so far with the NBA. But
I think college football will do a bigger number than the playoff game.
I think so too. So with this, the line opened at 21. It is sitting at 21. It's just staying right there. No movement, no nothing. And if you look at the metrics, they are kind of split on this as well. One batch has Oklahoma State minus 12. Another has Oklahoma State minus 25.5. And I will say this. Tulsa, last year, gave up 330 rushing yards to Oklahoma State en route to a 19-point loss. Now, it was 40-21. That was in Tulsa, if I remember correctly. I would imagine you'll have a lot of the same.
Was this first game of the season last year, too? Did we watch this game together?
No. You and I watched Oklahoma State and Oregon State in whatever the casino was. Yeah. But this was a crazy game last year because they just kept running it. Oklahoma State had like 150 yards passing. They didn't have to pass the ball if they didn't want to. And I think it might be more of the same here.
Yeah.
Tulsa has only got four starters back.
We're going to try to get Chubb the Heisman.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba.
Yeah. So with this, I mean, this is 21 points.
It's a big number.
Is a big number, but I might feel kind of strong about it, other than the fact that, man, they only won by 19 last year. They were only a 14-point favorite.
Now, I don't think a lot of action has come in on some of these games yet. 93% of the action's on Oklahoma State, and they haven't moved the number once.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
I'm going to be watching that in correlation with the number. If it stays in the 90s and we're game time and this thing hadn't gone up at all, I'm probably going to play Tulsa.
I will say this.
And that'll be just a blind bet. And I don't ever bet against a rattlesnake. You know that. I
Agreed.
just don't. But
I will say this.
It's not because of a fandom thing.
Oklahoma State.
That guy's crazy.
Oklahoma State, as a favorite, not great against the spread. However, as an underdog, he's 9-1 over the last 3 years. So, I'm wary of this.
This
Like,
is a line
Zach
I
Smith,
will be watching all week.
The quarterback for Tulsa, Zach Smith, is pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with that. Tulsa can always score.
Yes, they were okay last year on defense, but, man, they've only got 4 starters back. They've only got 1 coming back on that defensive line. And
listen, Tulsa could be bringing back, unless they're bringing an SEC defense with them, they're not slowing down Oklahoma State.
I think you're right.
Okay? The question is can they score enough to keep it within 3 touchdowns? And I don't know if they can, but I know that they can score. I'm not worried about their defense because their defense will play no factor in this game unless they get turnovers.
I think you got a point.
Because they're not stopping them. They're not going to see a lot of 3 and outs here.
I think you've got a valid point. Let's talk about some of these other games really quick because it's not a massive slate, and we got about 5 minutes left.
I got 3 other games written down, so we can talk about them. We can talk about anything you want.
Is it Louisiana Monroe and Army?
I got Louisiana Monroe and Army.
95% of the wagers are on Army right now. That's 413, 414.
That line has jumped 3 points.
Yeah, minus 14.5 to 17.5. Now, that's crazy.
This is what you call just people seeing one team trounce somebody one week and loading up on them the next. I don't have a real good feeling about Louisiana Monroe. I don't think Louisiana Monroe is a great football team.
They got a way better defensive line.
I think Army is a really good football team
than Middle Tennessee did.
But I'm just going to I will be playing Louisiana Monroe unless this line gets back to normalcy. Okay?
Yeah.
And it's just this is overcorrection off of watching Army beat the hell out of a bad football team last week.
I can buy that. I can buy that. Would the other be Tulane and South Alabama?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that is rotation.
Exact same logic and reasoning.
Yep. 429, 430. 100% of the wagers are on South Alabama.
They saw South Alabama beat Southern Miss. And I thought South Alabama was going to be a bad football team this year. They might not be bad. I thought Southern Miss was going to be a good football team. I don't think they're good.
I agree.
I don't think Tulane is going to be anything close to that.
I'm with you. That line went from 11 down to 10 currently for Tulane.
I even think 11 is just a wrong number.
I think so too. I think so much of this is overcorrection. We saw one team do really good, and we haven't seen anything from the other team. And historically, Tulane hasn't been a great football team, so why would anybody care about them or think about them? I've got a set of metrics here that has Tulane minus 21.41.
That sounds right. I was thinking three scores. I don't know necessarily 3 touchdowns, but I was thinking 17. That was what I was thinking. Or over 14 and a half or bigger is what I was thinking. And when I saw 10 to 11, I thought that is complete. We watched this team look really good, and now we're all going to go this way on them.
So we have not talked about Western Kentucky and Louisville. That is a night game as well.
I don't have that one. But if you want to talk about them, talk about them.
There's nothing much
The line hadn't moved much. I think the line's probably good.
Yeah, it's minus 11.5. That's rotation 405, 406. You
think so?
And then let's talk about some more after dark games.
Okay.
UTEP and Texas, that's 417, 418. That is a 42.5 point line. Good gracious.
I'm not playing 40-point games.
I wouldn't play 40-point games if it was Clemson.
No.
That's just insane.
But I just don't. I don't want to watch this game. I don't want to bet on this game. I don't want anything to do with it. The 2 other games I wrote down were App State, Charlotte.
Yep.
Early game. That line has moved a lot.
From 20.5 down to 17.
Opened at 21. 20.5, not 21. Sorry, down to 17 across the board. I'm very curious as what happened to cause 2.5 points and drop.
I don't know yet.
And
I looked earlier to see
that line movement shocked me. And then the other game is Coastal Carolina, Kansas. Open at 3.5, pretty consistently 3.5 to 4 everywhere. So it hasn't moved much.
Let me give you the metrics on Charlotte App State. App State minus 18.32.
So it's getting to where
it was supposed to be.
Maybe it just opened up too high.
Maybe, but I think
came in on Charlotte.
Maybe
early.
Maybe
App State seems to be a national team when you're talking about these G5 schools.
Oh yeah,
okay? Especially in that conference, they are kind of the big boys and the bullies of that conference. Ever since they've joined, it's shocking to me to see line movement go against them when they're playing a conference foe.
Agreed. But however, we do have a first-year head coach there, Will Healy.
A lot of volatility.
And there are people, the college football nerds like myself, absolutely love Will Healy.
I know.
So, but he hasn't done anything to show like that he's good against the spread or anything yet. So we'll see.
Anyway,
we'll see. They lost a lot of talent last year. And then finally, you said Coastal Carolina and Kansas.
And I only care about this game because
Les Miles.
I worship at the feet of Les Miles. I know he's goofy. I know he's weird. He's my guy.
403, 404 is the rotation here. A lot of people love Coastal Carolina right now. 56% of the wagers are on the Chanticleers.
And the line hadn't moved much. I mean, it opened at 3.5, and it's still 3.5.
Yeah,
you can get it at 4
in some spots. But yeah, still sitting about 3.5. I'll tell you this: metrics have got Kansas minus 10.26.
I thought this was a really short number. I thought I didn't know about 10. I thought at least a touchdown. When I saw it was 3.5, I just thought that's just blatant disrespect for a national championship coach.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I will say this: Kansas's defense, they got problems. They got problems. However,
against Oklahoma, they're not going to do well. You think they're going to have problems with Coastal Carolina? They got that kind of problems?
I do think Jamie Chadwell and that bunch are going to be fine being able to score
points
this year.
If they got problems with Coastal Carolina,
they are going to get hammered in the Big 12.
Then it's going to be real bad all year.
It might get
This is the one game where they got to go out and they get the opportunity to kick somebody's ass.
Hey, you're right.
And if they don't take this opportunity, they're going over.
I think they're going to hand the ball to Puka Williams 50 times.
I do too. And I think they're going to win by 10. And I thought this line should be 7. And when I saw it was 3.5, I thought, something looks mess,
weird.
Man. that is not right.
Blatant disrespect is what that is.
Blatant disrespect from my guy.
All right. If you guys want to see more sports content, go over, visit sbrpicks.com/NCAAF. You can click the links in the description down below. We got a ton of content over there. We got a great crew, a great staff. We have got some wonderful people working with some fantastic information. Yes. Go and get all of the information that you need. sbrpicks.com/NCAAF. If you have not already, if you've watched through this entire video and you haven't clicked the like button yet, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Go ahead and click that thumbs up button. It don't stop the video. It don't do anything. It likes it, and it throws it into the algorithm, and it helps us out a whole lot.
We appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
Please do that.
Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That way you can get all the content that you need going forward. Is there anything else we need to hit?
No, man. I think we covered all of the.
We covered every game again, and we're gonna do this for a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay. If you love college football, we love college football. It's gonna be a fantastic year. For SportsbookReview.com, I'm Gary,
and I'm Chris.
We will see you again next time.